Hello, my name is Dan Bell, and today's video is going to look at how to configure the project intake capabilities in Microsoft Project Online and Project Server. My name is Dan Bell. I am an executive director here at Intigent, and I have been working in the project management industry since roughly 2003, and have seen quite a bit with this tool set, have helped a number of customers deploy this tool set over the years, and I'm happy to be part of this video. With regard to today's video, configuring project intake, Microsoft commonly refers to that as demand management into the tool set. The steps we're going to be taking are shown here on this slide. We're going to create some custom fields. We're going to create a project template because that's part of what demand management capabilities provide. We're going to create a project center view within the tool set, and which will enable us to view our projects grouped by a particular attribute. We will create project detail pages. These are the items that contain our project attributes. Finally, we will create an enterprise project type, which is the glue to pull all these pieces together. And lastly, we will test this functionality. Okay. Regarding demand management capabilities, basically it's the ability within the tool set to initiate projects of different types. Okay. The first step is to create some custom fields. And what do custom fields do in Project Online? Well, they really aid in reporting. That's one of the real primary aspects of custom fields. And there's the list of the fields we're going to create. I'm going to create about 7 or so, not really too many, but they're pretty significant fields from a reporting perspective. Many customers do use these fields, so you'll probably see them quite commonly used across organizations. Therefore, hey, let's get going. Here's my Project Online environment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to PWA settings. So I'll click my gear, get over here to PWA settings. And within settings, you'll notice there are a number of different groupings here. Mine may look slightly different than yours, and that's because of the permission mode I am using, which is project permission. Within enterprise data, enterprise custom fields and lookup tables is the link I want. When I click that, I will be brought to the enterprise custom fields and lookup tables section of the settings. And there are 2 sections. Top is to create custom fields. Bottom is to create lookup tables. Lookup tables are primarily used in situations where you want to present the user with a list of values to select, and they would select from them rather than typing something in. And the lookup tables are really great if it's going to be a very consistent set of values and you would like to ensure that for reporting purposes, they're always going to be the same or consistent instead of typing the values in, meaning we could always have people type in the name of a state, but sometimes they might type it in slightly different, all caps, all lowercase, first letter capitalized, et cetera, et cetera. Lookup tables are going to avoid those types of situations. We are going to create a lookup table here. The first one we're going to create is for that really great project status field, right? This table is going to hold the different statuses our projects can be in with regard to this organization's methodology. The top sections, type, code mask, we're not going to change those, but note that you can have different types of values that are stored here. Remember, this is going to store the types of statuses or different statuses we can be in. It's a text value. We'll leave the text alone. Code mask, when would I change this? Well, primarily really the only time you're going to change this is when you're going to have a structure within this field, some kind of hierarchy, and we're not. It's basically a flat list of values. Therefore, we're not going to change it. Here's where we want to interact, and we want to specify some values here. And in this case, I'm only concerned with the value column. Okay. Now, something to consider is this. When you create reports in Excel or other technologies like Power BI, these fields in these lookup tables are going to sort primarily in their alphabetical order. Okay, so you may want to consider that in how you name these fields. All right. So what I'm going to do is to ensure that they always sort in a certain order, meaning I want my projects that are being initiated before they're executed to show up in a report. I'm going to precede them with a numeric value. Right. Initiate. Plan. Yeah, let's go back up there and fix that. And then we're going to execute. And then we're going to close. 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. Again, what's that going to do? It's basically going to ensure that I'm able to sort these in a particular order to facilitate reporting. That's really all there is to it. Last setting here, display order for lookup table. Sort of setting in this case. And go ahead and click save. That's my one project status lookup table. I'm going to create one more lookup table. There's that table we created. The other table is going to store the list of available values I can select for my key performance indicators. You saw this before: project health, project cost, project schedule. And I'm just going to call this indicators, for lack of a better word here. The first value is going to be unset. The reason I'm putting that in here is because I want to make this a required field when I do create it. And therefore, I'm going to force people to select something. And if they don't have a particular setting, we're going to make sure that they're able to select unset, high, medium, low. And that is it. Those are the fields I want. We'll go ahead and I'll let them sort in that particular order. Click save. And those are the two fields I'm going to create. Now the first custom field I'm going to create. Let's go ahead and click on new field in the custom fields section. We created the lookup table. That's not enough. We need to create the field that accesses that lookup table, right? We come down here, we look at the different settings. I could put in the description, entity and type. It's going to be describing projects. Therefore, I'll leave the entity project. Text is going to be the type. A custom attribute, remember we created a lookup table. Therefore, I select the lookup table radio button, look for my project status lookup table. What is the default value? Are we going to select one? Yes, we are, actually. All projects will start an initiation, right? And do we want to require this field as information? Yes, we do. Go ahead and click yes to that. Actually, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to leave that for no for now, and that's because of the template we're going to create in a little while, the project schedule template. All right. Next field I'm going to create is called project health. What is project health for? Well, basically, typically what we have very objective metrics, schedule and cost. Those are very objective because basically that's going to be a variance between your baseline and actuals. The project health is typically something that's set by the project manager based on their working with the project day after day and their assessment of how they feel the project is going. All right. Leave the initial settings alone. It's going to be an indicators item here. Do we want to have a default field? Yeah, we do. We're going to make it unset. Something we're going to change up here is we're going to want to have this item display, not data, but rather graphical indicators. Okay. The test in each case equals here, equals, and we're going to need to insert another row here. What are the values? Well, remember, unset, high, medium, low. What are the images? Well, unset, yeah, typically I'll use something like a dash here, white dash. High would typically be red, medium would typically yellow, and low would typically be green. What does that mean? Well, project health is the divergence or the egregence of the health really bad, like high, the red. Is it okay, not so bad, medium, or is it really well? That's going to be a green. Okay, and we're going to click save. That is our project health. Now we're going to do project cost. Again, it's going to be a lookup table, default value. Yes, we're going to make it, oh, we need to select the right field here. And select unset, graphical indicators, add one here, equals. All right, and then remember, high, medium, low. That's going to be that white dash that you saw earlier. There we go. Red, yellow, green. That one's done. One more KPI. That's going to be our project schedule. And that's going to be a lookup table. Select indicators. Does it have a default value? Yes, it does. It's going to be the unset. Again, graphical indicators here. Insert one more value. equals, equals, equals across the board. Values unset, high, medium, low. And that's going to be the white dash. High, medium, and then finally low. Done. We have 3 more fields. One is the problem statement. What problem is this project solving? And let's see if we can't straighten that out. Problem statement. It's going to be a multi-line text field, right? And that's really all I care about. It's going to be a project NP. It's going to be textual based, multi-lines of text. Go ahead and save it. Expected benefit is the next one. We'll go ahead and grab that. And again, multi-line text field. Everything else we just leave alone. Notice I'm refraining from making everything required now. You could always go back and revise these and make a lot of these required. Status summary, what is this? Well, it's really intended for the project manager to fill out every reporting period. Why is my project tracking the way it is this reporting period? Give some justification or information to support those KPIs. Status summary, multi-line text, save. That is it for my custom fields. The next thing I want to do is look at a project template. When we initiate these projects utilizing the demand management capabilities, one of the great features is the ability to have a template automatically be created from our project here, right? So let's go ahead and utilize a template here. I'm just grabbing one from Office, you noticed here, software development plan. We'll look here, project info, any required fields? No, but notice it does have my custom fields there. That's great. Cost, health, schedule, and status. Let's go ahead and save this. Save as, click the save button. We'll call this development plan. And the only thing we're concerned with here is this, type. We need to specify a type of template. And that'll allow us to select it when we're creating our enterprise project type a little later. If this was an existing project that had been used to execute, I would select those checkboxes to clear previous values. It has not been, therefore, I'm good with everything else, and we'll close out of that. All right, Project Center view. Well, we created those great custom fields. Let's create a view to utilize them. Click the gear, PWA settings, look and feel, manage views. Right now, the Project Center views are what? Those are the views in which we're looking across all projects. Therefore, I'm looking for the Project Center grouping right here. I'm going to start from a summary view. I'm just going to copy it. Highlight the row, click copy. And we'll call this summary by status. Very easy. Screen will refresh. There's my summary by status. I'm going to click directly on the name this time because we want to make some modifications to this view. What do we want to do? Well, we want to add some of those custom fields I created. And there's project health, project schedule, project status. And there should be project cost right there as well. And there they are. And where do I really want them? Well, probably next to project name. So let's go ahead and move that up. Cost. We'll move that just before cost, and then we'll bring up schedule. That's good. All right, that's where I want my fields. Then I want to group by something. So look for the groupings section in the format view area. The group by first, look for project status. And there it is. All right. You could have multiple groupings, of course, as you can see here. You could just by a filter if you need to. I'm good with everything here. And we could, of course, get very particular with the width of these columns. They're only going to display graphical indicators. Therefore, why don't we narrow the width of these columns, right? I don't know, maybe 25 pixels. There we go, like that. And that will save us some real estate. Summary by status. My view is done. Next, project detail pages. Let's go ahead. Click on the gear, click on PWA settings. In the workflow and project detail sections, there is going to be a project detail pages link. Go ahead and click on that. There we go. And there are project detail pages. Right, so we have some that are in place currently. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to create a two project detail pages here. Okay. Notice that we have the schedule, we have the strategic impact, okay, we have project information, right? We are going to create a new one. So click on new, click on project detail page. It'll bring up a blank page here. Takes just a moment. And it looks like we've got it in place now. Great. So let's create project status. What is this one? Well, this is the one that's going to have those KPIs on it that the project manager would fill out every reporting period. Project status, click create. There it is. Now we have to add a web part to this page. The web part is what's going to allow us to add the custom fields, or rather all the project attributes. Some will be custom, some will be out of the box. I need to navigate to the categories section. Within categories, select project web app. Okay. When I do that, I can see all the various parts here, right? So if I click on basic info, I can see what's available here. Click on details, I can see what's available here, right? So a number of different items here that are available at this time. If you notice, when I highlight basic info, we can see the description way over here, and it says displays a list that may consist of project custom fields, summary fields, inherent fields, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead and add that. Excellent. Added the basic info. Now we need to configure this web part. One way you can get into the settings is if I hover over it, you'll notice that this tiny little arrow in the far right shows up. If I click on that, it'll expose a submenu. If I click on that, edit web part, it'll bring up the edit web part menu to the right. The displayed project fields section is what I care about. I'm going to click on modify here. And when I do, it brings up a choose project fields dialog box. It looks a little bit like when we were modifying that summary view earlier. Now we're going to add some fields here. Okay, so we're going to look for, let's go ahead and add project name. And we're going to want to add description. Where's our status summary field? Remember the status summary is that multi-line text field we created. Now we want project health, okay? Because project health is that indicator that we created before. Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to actually add two more web parts, and the only reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to separate the sections. We're going to crawl this. It's just going to put a name. It's going to change that basic info to project status. Click OK. There you go. Here's project status. Click web part. I'm going to do the same thing. And remember, click on that little arrow, edit settings. And this one's going to be cost information. So what are we looking for here? We're looking for baseline fields. We want baseline cost. Then we want cost. It's going to be down here almost. And then we want project cost, which is that KPI field we created. Right? What are we going to call that? Cost status. Looking good so far. This is where it gets a little tricky sometimes when you want to move your web parts back and forth. All right, let's add that final web part, another basic info. Basic info. Remember, this one's going to be schedule info. Start with the baseline field, baseline finish. Then we want finish. Then we want project schedule. And there it is. Click that. and go ahead and click OK there. Okay. And there we have project status, schedule status, cost status. Not a lot of fields, but basically the core fields that we need here in this particular case. Let's go ahead and stop editing. Actually, you know, I did neglected to put one field on here. I actually want my project status field on here. And let's go ahead and add that. Excellent. There's my project status field. Should see that added here. There it is right there. All right. That concludes that particular page. Sign out of that one. One more page, new project deal pages. Brought me right back to the previous. This page is just going to have the multi-line text fields. Project PPM details, full page. All right, and it responds, then we click add. Remember, the same process as before. In the categories, find project web app, find basic info. There's the info, right? Reminds us, custom fields, click on the arrow, edit web part, and then we click on the modify button, and now we need to add the fields we want to see here. Okay, I'm going to have a project ID field. I'm going to have a project name field. Start, finish, description. All right, we want to have the owner field because we do want to know who the owner is. Let's get problem statement and then expected benefit. Those are the multi-line texts we created. Click OK here. Right. Change the title of PPM summary, click OK, and then we should see that. Change PPM summary, get the fields, and there are new fields. There's our new project detail page. Okay. Looking good, people, looking good. All right, so we have the project detail pages created. We did all the other previous steps. Now let's go back to PWA settings, gear. Yep, let's do this. Let's go back to our home page. Go away. And let's do this. Go back to the top level site here. Click on the gear now, get to PWA settings. What do we want to do? We want to create the enterprise project type. This is, remember what we said before, the glue that puts everything together. We have two existing on a default site. This is what you're going to get, SharePoint task list, enterprise project. I wanted to create a new one in this case. PPM project request. I want my project ID to start out with PPM dash. I'm going to leave everything else alone in this particular case. The new project page we're going to leave as the project detail pages. I really didn't have any changes for the request page. And the request page is simply the page that shows up when you fill out the initial request. It usually looks for just the name, description, start date, and some bare essentials. What are the other pages that we want to see post that? Well, I want to see my details, I want to see my schedule, and I want to see my status. PPM details because it's going to allow us to enter in those additional multi-line text fields. Schedule because we're going to want to see the project schedule to be able to understand how the project's tracking at a micro level. And then project status because we're going to want the project manager to be able to enter information about how the project's tracking and changing those KPI values. We have other possible settings here. Do we want this to only show up, this particular EPT, for certain departments? What image do we want to show up in front of it? Do we want it to show up at the end? Should it automatically create project sites upon next publish, or do we want the users to choose? We'll choose the latter. Synchronization, sync project work users to the project site. Do you want this synchronization to take place? So here's where you can go ahead and specify whether those synchronizations take place, and then users can use those sites and so forth. The sync SharePoint task list, what this does is this will update the timeline within the environment. Really, the most important setting out of all these additional configuration settings is the one at the very bottom, project plan template. We want to specify a template. Remember, we created development plan. There it is. Click Save. And there is PPM project request. That's the new enterprise project we created that put together all the different pieces in this particular case. Now I click on Project Center. And it takes me to Project Center. Currently, there are no projects. There's a link here for me to add a project. I can click on that, or I can click here on the ribbon. When I click here on the tab, it exposes all the features available. The new button, when I click on that, it will expose the EPTs that are available. There's the one we created, PPM Project Request. I can click on that one. This will bring up the project request form. Okay. So what it does is it's using the project detail form, the default one within the system. And the default project detail form, what it does is it actually will display some core fields from the system, name, description, and start date owner. But it will also display dynamic fields. And what I mean by dynamic are, as you create custom project attributes, they will automatically show up on this form. Okay. If you don't want them to, don't use this form to initiate your projects, okay? Because sometimes you may just want to have the core fields show up when you initiate your project, all right? Very simple change, okay? What I could consider doing is I could consider changing this or swapping this out for that other intake form that was there, the project information one. And that one does not add dynamic fields to it, okay? So why don't we do that and demonstrate that? Gear, PWA settings. Enterprise project types, go to PPM project request, and we're looking for that particular setting, new project page. We have project details selected. Project details is the one that allows us to have those dynamic fields. We only care about the core fields. We're going to select project information, go to the bottom, select save. Click on projects again. And that'll bring me to Project Center. And again, it will remind me, hey, Dan, you have no projects within this particular environment. Click on the tab, click on New, exposes the EPTs for me to enable entering a project within the system. Much better, in my opinion, because I do want to keep the initial project request form brief. PPM test request 100, right? So here is my description. You could obviously put anything in here. When is the start date? We don't know. This is going to be a pie in the sky. Who's the owner? It doesn't have anything in here now. However, it's going to pre-fill for the person who's filling in this request if you just click finish. So I'm going to click finish. Note the processing in the right here. Create a new project, hold on creating the project. This will continue for just a brief period of time, typically. When it's finished, what will happen is the system will typically go to the first page of the PDPs or project detail pages that are available. And remember, we created the EPT. We put project PPM details, schedule, project status in there. There's that new project detail page we created, right? Description, told you, owner would pre-fill to me. There's the problem statement, expected benefit. Well, so far we're looking pretty good here. Okay. If I click next, and let's do that. Let's click save first. Okay. Go ahead and click next, and what do we see? Remember that project template we created? There it is. All right, so the project was created from that project's template we specified. Go back to project here. Click one more time. What should we see? Well, we should see this scroll to our project status screen. Remember project status, name, description. Here's the status we're going to initiate. Status summary. That's the field that the project manager fills out every reporting period. We're tracking the way we are this period because then the project manager can fill in the health. Set it to high, medium, low. How's your schedule status doing? Well, maybe the schedule is doing okay. From a cost perspective, we're doing great. Click save. And what I'm going to do is I'll navigate back to my schedule web part here. And I'm going to go to this here task, and we're going to let's see, set a baseline. Okay, you can see baseline set successfully on the right. Go ahead and publish this project. You can see baseline set successfully underneath publishing. Saving your project, you can continue to edit on this page. I'm good at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close out. Check it in. Click OK. And then I should be brought back to Project Center and just see this one lone project in the default view. There it is, PPM, all those fields. Remember we created that custom view. We called it Summary by Status. There you go. Currently in initiation, PPM test project 100. Right, there's your project health. Okay, project costs, and your project schedule, and the graphical indicators are there. Another thing I could have done when I created this view is I could have put abbreviated headings in there as well. Instead of putting the word project in front, I just could have put health, cost, schedule. That way, if the columns were very narrow, you would understand which is which. So another good enhancement to consider. However, this is it. This completes this lesson of configuring demand management. Hopefully you learned something from this, and hopefully you found it helpful. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and submit any kind of information you have. Any kind of requests for subsequent videos. Our contact information is up on the current slide, website right there. You can also see our email address. We have many other videos available on the website for you to utilize and gain knowledge from. Thanks again for attending. See you next time.